welcome to Flak. It's October. Yay! All right, our guest today is the lovely and talented Tam Marie Alexander, who is a writer and a well-known person online to all of us who are friends with her. I have known Tam how long?
Got to be at least 35 years.
Easy. Yeah. So we knew each other through fandom and all of that stuff. I think we've met physically once, I think, or twice maybe.
Yeah, a couple times at cons, but we mostly stay in touch online.
Yeah,
Thank
mainly.
for the internet, right?
Yeah, and of course online is the status quo now. So
Yeah.
anyway, also with us, as with every week, is my brother Mark. He is not feeling well today. So if he sort of disappears, then it'll be okay. He's just gonna take it easy. So that's under my request because he's the last sibling I have left, so he's not gonna go anywhere. Anyway,
Yep, and by the way, I only have one sibling left also.
yeah,
Surprisingly.
it's coincidence. Insane.
And I'm the older brother.
Yes,
So
he is. He's my older brother. Everybody thinks he's my kid brother because he looks. Well, I don't dye my hair, and because
well, I don't have any hair, so
yeah,
although I do dye this. So if I didn't dye this, it would be white. So
and because of the weight loss surgery, I got the turkey neck. So
oh, don't worry about it. Happens to the best of us.
yeah, that's life. Anyway, better than the alternative. Now,
Yes, as who was it? The comedian. He was 100 years old.
George Burns.
George Burns. He said that. He said that they asked him how it felt to be 100 years old. He said, considering the alternative, it feels pretty good.
Still funny. Still funny.
Still
Yep.
Well, anyway, we are today going to talk about some of the stuff going on, and all of the content we're discussing today is based on the information supplied to us all by entertainment lawyer at crazydaysandnights.net. He is known as NT to everybody. He's the one who broke the stories about Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey. And he is thought to be a major contact with Seth MacFarlane. So all of these people who are decent human beings talk to each other, and they let each other know what's going on.
I didn't know that about Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, Seth talks to him on fairly certain. Robert Downey Jr. was definitely.
Yeah, I know RDJ is a part of it.
Yeah, and he has a system of people who they're usually the ones you get nasty remarks made about.
Yeah.
It'll never be something specific. It'll always be in general.
Well,
And-
my only interaction with Robert Downey Jr. was that he was a jerk.
Yeah, well.
So
When was that?
the D23 convention 4 years ago,
Really?
they brought out the entire cast of the Avengers on the stage, and they had all of them out there.
Yeah.
And they had just shown the preview of the next Avengers movie.
And
So they brought the no, it was the one before that.
Infinity Wars.
Yeah, and they brought the lights up, and all of the cast was out there. And Robert Downey Jr. says, "Wouldn't you guys all like to see that again?" And everybody, of course, cheers. So they dip the lights and they show it again. The lights come on. Robert Downey Jr. is gone. He had used that moment to disappear. And I read later that Disney gave him a scolding for doing that after they had paid him to be there, and he disappeared.
He probably
Well,
had his reasons for leaving. He probably had a reason for leaving.
Maybe, but it wasn't very nice to the people that had paid to come there to see him.
Well, he's got a life too, and I know that he was recently, within the last few years, has been helping his son go through drug uh, addiction. Like helping him get through it.
well, also there are people who can be real dicks as a
Oh
person,
yeah,
but I mean, ask any reporter who has interviewed Tom Marie Alexander.
yeah.
He's an ass when he
He's
talks.
a curmudgeon. He's like
Yeah,
he's been a curmudgeon his whole life.
exactly. And
Well, at the conventions, I ran into that all the time with Andrew Prine, and he's really
well, that's a different issue.
he's
That's
a
somebody.
he's a piece of work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy Lee is a good man, though. As the people he interacts with, he does the right thing.
Well, I mean, but not to badmouth all. There's some of them that are just wonderful people. Linda Blair. Linda Blair is the sweetest, nicest person you could ever meet in your life.
I've always adored her.
I
I've
remember
always adored her.
when wait, I'm getting my nieces mixed up. Allison was real shy, and she was trying to get her to, take a picture with her, and she goes, "No, it's okay." And Beverly told me the story. Mark's late wife, and um, Linda goes, "Are you sure?" And she goes, "It's okay. You can take a
Let Linda Blair actually walked around the table and stood next to Allison so I could take a picture of her. But there were some other ones. Some you may not even know the people. William Wyndham. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah, oh
remember him. He was so nice to Allison. Allison was dressed like a cave girl at this convention. Everybody was in costume. It was around Halloween. And he was just commenting how cute she was and stuff. And, he could barely stand up at that time. He was pretty old.
yeah.
And another really sweet guy is Tony Todd. He is amazingly
Oh, yeah.
personable,
He's
warm.
a great actor, too.
I found out he taught acting class at the university, or no, state of Michigan, uh, Michigan State University in Lansing, and he just opened up to me when I was just going to check on him because I was working at a convention in town, and he was there, and it was the last day, and I was just going around and checking on all the guests. And when I went up to him and I said, "Thank you for coming, and did you enjoy yourself?" And he took my hand, and his hands are just huge, and he just got so emotional talking to me about his life and things that he'd done, but he was so sweet and soft spoken. And I'm like, and this man plays all these bad guys that scare you to death, and people don't know what a doll he is.
Okay. Well, while we're talking about people who have a bad persona, or have bad personae,
Yes.
but are nice, let's talk about Kiefer. Now we hear Kiefer Sutherland stories all the time,
Kiefer's
and
my
you know
boy.
Kiefer.
Kiefer's my boy.
Yeah, and he's a big sweet.
Barry. I got to meet him when he was first starting out with his band, and he was touring small places to see how it would be received. He came here to my town, and I waited. You know, I wanted to meet him. I sent something that I had for him that I was going to give him if I had gone to New York to see him back in, God, was it 88, 90 or whatever. Um, I was going to go to see him at when he was on Saturday Night Live, but it fell through. So I had this thing for like 30 years, and I sent it backstage with his manager, and uh, she got an autograph, got him to autograph a CD for me. And my sister, who was with me, she said, "Is that really his signature?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's his signature." But I was like, I really wanted to meet him. And they said, "Oh, but we've got to get on the bus and we've got to get to the next town." My sister, who was a, you know, groupie back in the day, she was like, "Come with me." And she took me and we stood outside the bus. And then they, were a bunch of people waiting. And this was like well after midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And they said Kiefer was going to come out and sign autographs and everything. I didn't want an autograph, I didn't want, but they brought him over to me specifically and said, "This is the one who gave you that gift. This is Tam." And they remembered my name. And he came right to me and just put his arms around me and hugged me. And as I was hugging him, I said, "I have waited 30 years for this." And we were just talking. My sister said he spent more time with me than with anybody else. And as we were talking, she's like, it was like watching two old friends who hadn't seen each other in years. And he got pictures taken with us. And when he did, he put his arm around me and he put his head against mine. And I was like, oh my God,
You
it was
guys have
just
the
so,
best pictures.
yeah. And he also, I had asked him, I said, "How's your mom?" And he said, "She's not doing good." And I said, "Yeah, I understand." I said, "My mom's not doing well either." This was just a couple months before his mother, Shirley, died. And I texted him and said, "I am so sorry." But he is just one of the most personable, warm, down to earth human beings you will ever meet. And he has
His
gone through a lot of shit in his life.
Oh yeah. Well, his co-star, Mary Lynn Rice Cup, who played Chloe on 24.
Yeah.
Um, he heard that one of her relatives, and I won't say who, but one of her relatives was ill, but had been a huge fan of his,
Yeah.
and they asked him if he'd call her, or Mary Lynn asked him, and so he didn't. He flew over there, and he sat in there next to her and talked to her for over 4 hours, and
Yeah.
just was very patient. And because you get that old, you get memory issues.
Yeah.
And she kept asking him, "Now, how do we know you?" And
That
that's not important.
that is so sweet. Yeah, he's a good guy. He is a good guy.
So there are plenty of good people in the industry,
Yeah.
and
He stars in one of my favorite movies,
Which
oh,
is,
which is,
Dark City.
oh yeah, okay.
I
It's
actually
kind.
I had a baseball cap from something, some promotional thing. I don't know what happened to it, but yeah, Dark City was weird. It was very strange.
It's an offbeat sci-fi film. You know,
Really, it's very dark.
probably the only one more offbeat than that is Naked Lunch.
Oh
Yeah. What was the
Not
one?
very many people have seen Naked Lunch.
I saw it for
And for
Julian
good
Sands.
reason.
Okay, I saw it
Can we
for
see
Julian
Wild Wild
Sands.
Crocodile again?
Ah,
Yes, Connor.
Can we see Wild Wild Crocodile again?
Can I see what?
Can we see the Wild Wild Crocodile movie again?
Yeah, probably down the road somewhere. Come to mommy and daddy. They can go too.
there you go.
Okay. Connor wanted to see Lyle the crocodile again.
Yeah, you guys just saw Lyle.
Yes.
The other film that was really weird, with the word dark in it, is The Dark Backward with Judd
I'm-
Nelson. He plays
Uh,
like a wimpy little guy who becomes like a famous personality because he has an arm grow out of his back.
yeah, that would be
It was
different.
just weird, It was one of those weird off the wall dark comedy type things, black comedies. But
I'm
anyway.
beginning to
Pardon me
think
for a moment.
yeah, we have a comment. I'm beginning to think Jessica Wolf is actually Richard Halpern.
Okay, yeah,
My favorite movie is Austin Powers. We know Jessica.
yeah,
I just communicated with Richard yesterday, so we're
okay.
trying to firm up
Oh,
a
okay, yeah.
different.
So
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
now I was going to say, go ahead. We were going to talk about the stuff that's going on right now. Do you want to
Yeah.
lead into that?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. There's going to be a whole lot of arrests, and probably it'll come to nothing. But Cuba Gooding Jr. just got a taste of it the other day.
Yep.
He was actually arrested and tried for it.
Yeah.
He got no jail time, but you know, he's somebody with a real problem,
I
and
yeah. That
there's a
was
couple of those.
that's a sad one. And what's really funny? You mentioned Seth MacFarlane. It's really odd how I mean, I know Seth MacFarlane is not like the writer and he's it's his productions or whatever with
Yeah.
Fuzzy Door and everything. Things that have happened on Family Guy and on American Dad, um, that really kind of call out the dark side of the industry
Yeah.
and celebrities have come to pass. I mean, they always say, "Oh, the Simpsons predicted this and the Simpsons predicted that." There's stuff on like when he had an American Dad, they had for their anniversary, Stan got Whitney Houston to come to sing, and she would only do it for drugs. So they threw drugs to Whitney, and she went running after them. And I was like,
Yeah.
we knew she had a drug problem, but that she died from drug addiction. And they also had something about, I think it was in the first or something season. It was Stewie made a bet with Brian. He took off his clothes and ran naked through the mall, screaming, "Help! I've just escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement."
Yeah.
Years before.
A long
Years
time
before.
I knew.
And I'm like, how in the hell?
Yeah.
Now that you tell me that, Seth's got, that's probably why they don't want him hosting the Oscars, because
It
he
is.
knows all their shit.
Exactly.
He knows all your secrets.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's there are a few things that are coming to light. Naturally, all of the Epstein stuff.
Yeah. You're
And
going to have Mel
the
Gibson.
Madame Couture. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mel Gibson is supposed to testify against Weinstein, Weinstein, and they said that, well, they're going to cross-examine with all of his anti-Semitic and racist and stuff, so
It's nothing next to what Weinstein is.
Well,
Done.
it's funny. My neighbor knows Kevin Spacey, and he says all of this stuff is bull. Now,
really.
I don't know. Kevin Spacey gave him a part in that American Beauty or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a real creepy film.
Yeah.
He played. Do you remember in the movie when Kevin Spacey went to the fast food place to interview for a job?
Yeah.
Well, he played the guy that interviewed him,
Oh, okay.
and
Well,
it's
that movie was just, all about a pedophile.
yeah. He met him. It was weird. He met him out riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
They were riding. A lot of times when you ride a motorcycle, you'll pair up with somebody, even if it's not a friend. It's just somebody you happen to be riding with. So
Right.
they rode with each other for a couple hours, and they stopped, and the guy took his helmet off, and it was Kevin Spacey, and he recognized him, and they got to talking, and he mentioned that he was trying to become an actor, and Kevin Spacey got him that role. So
Well, I mean,
he would tend, of course, to be appreciative. So that may be where his opinion is coming from. So
and also everybody has at least two sides, and
Yeah.
he may have a very dark side that we don't know about, and
Exactly.
I'm sure there are things about Seth MacFarlane that aren't terrific, but
Oh yeah, I'm
you
sure.
know, the but the important thing is that the criminality is called into question
Yeah.
and
Um,
dealt with,
the,
whether it's exonerating or convicting. It has to be equally
yeah.
meted out because,
but Melanie, it just doesn't happen. If you've
yeah,
got money, if you've got money,
it vanishes.
you may get a little hand slap, but that's all you're gonna get.
I mean, look at how much Queen Elizabeth doled out to protect her baby Andrew.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
didn't she deport him?
No, she didn't deport him, but she definitely
they
stripped him of
they stripped him
most
of
of
his
it.
military. He
Yeah.
couldn't wear at the funeral. He and Harry both could not wear their uniforms. They could wear their medals, but they couldn't wear their uniforms for the
I-
funeral.
Well, that whole Ghislaine Maxwell thing, they're not doing anything to the people that were going to that island. I
No.
haven't heard a single one of them
Yeah.
Yeah.
accused
Well,
of anything. And there was something going on there.
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I suspect um, eventually will spill out, but
Yeah.
rich people don't get in trouble the way we do. However, there is an attempt to at least go after these people, especially the worst.
Well,
Like
I would imagine there are some people in law enforcement who are ethical and so forth, but a lot of times they're not high enough up the ladder
yeah.
to get
Well,
anything done.
they don't. They only name into higher positions people who will, carry the water for them. But
Yeah.
there is an attempt now being put forth um, to at least call these people to the carpet in public.
Yeah.
And Inti is one of those
Yeah.
people. And the, I mean, do you know who has more arrests than anybody in the entertainment industry?
Charlie Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, when Martin Sheen was younger, he was kind of a fireball.
But his weren't for criminal offenses, they were all for
Political activism?
political activism. Yeah.
I had a feeling. Yeah.
He's been arrested over 140 times.
He used to he used to participate.
Yeah.
He used to participate in a lot of those marches and stuff.
Yeah.
That
So did Kiefer Sutherland's mother,
Yeah.
Shirley. She did a lot of. She was involved with the Black Panthers,
Yeah.
and he said, some of his earliest memories were being carried in parades, with, marching, protest marches,
And
with her.
the way that they punish to get away from obviously Martin is not a
Yeah,
criminal. His son is another matter, but the way they handle people like him is that they never work again.
yeah,
And their punishment is they get their cards pulled, they don't
yeah,
get interviews, and he'll never get another important role again. His
yeah.
father might get him a role on a commercial, but that's about it. And
I
the
just realized something.
what's that?
And you can see. Wait a minute. behind my head right here, right
Uh
there
huh. Right.
that I'm pointing at.
Uh
It's
huh.
hard to see it because it's way in the background, but that's Kiefer Sutherland's Levi's ad from before he really broke onto the scene.
There you go.
It's like we're talking about Kiefer, and I just realized he's behind me, isn't
He's
he?
behind you.
So
But
about the thing with Marilyn Manson, um, and there was a blind item I just saw right before I came on here that um, a lot of people are saying Evan Rachel Wood, who is accusing, the main accuser, that she might be revealed as having a fetish that could get her. I mean, you know how they attack the
yeah,
victims.
always.
That she has, that they're saying that somebody with a three word name who is involved recently in a who's about to be involved in a series of trials.
So
Um,
yeah, Evan
okay,
Rachel Wood.
Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah.
Um, that they have a fetish for dressing up as a Nazi prison guard or something like that. That's the blind item, okay? And people were guessing her. And I was like, if that is what I mean, because considering that Marilyn Manson often did wear Nazi regalia, like the SS
Yeah.
hats and stuff, I could see it, and I would feel really bad for her if that, or any other thing that she might do in privacy, um, comes out. I'm not saying that I support people dressing up like Nazis and fetishizing them, but
Right.
it is, um, if it hurts her case, that well, look at her, what she does,
Yeah.
if it
Exactly.
hurts her
There's no
case,
bearing on that.
yeah. So I don't know. I have no idea. I've seen people where they, in cases where they bring up stuff from that person's past
Right.
or something that they do that is, like kink shaming and stuff, that they
Right.
do. It's like they're not hurting anybody. Everybody's a consenting adult. But that's the whole thing. It's about consent.
Yeah.
And if she was with somebody, and you can be married to somebody, and if they want to have sex with you at that, and you say no, not tonight, and they do it anyway, that is against your consent. And it doesn't matter if you're married, that is still rape.
It's right.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's still abuse. And that is something that, unfortunately, my own mother had to go through with my father. And
Oh,
uh,
your dad, he was a prince.
oh yeah, my father was you know, somebody once saw a picture of my father and said, "Who is that?" And I said, "That is my father, my biological father." And they said, "He's got eyes like a serial killer." And I'm like, "What?" Then, like a little while later, I saw a picture of John Wayne Gacy in his mug shots, and I was like, "Oh my God, he looked just like my father when my father was at his heaviest from the
Uh,
'70s with the porn stash and everything." And I was like, "Oh God, no."
yeah. Everybody kind of looked like that in the 70s. the
I almost choked on my tea. It's true.
sorry about that. The that's the thing with courtrooms is, and we're seeing that now with Lisa Marie Presley. She's testifying against Danny Masterson,
Wow,
and
I did not know
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, and they're having to go very gently with her because you know she
Because
could
her
accuse
father
exactly.
and her mother was very young when her father started
Yeah,
grooming her. Yeah,
her yeah, her mom was 14,
yeah.
and
And I'm sorry,
yeah,
but that is grooming.
of course it is.
Now we know what it is. Back then they could say, oh, well, like, and Jerry Lee Lewis and his 13-year-old cousin, you know,
I know.
and and Loretta Lynn and Doolittle.
Yeah,
She was just a child pretty
she
much,
was.
and they were, it's like these older men, they groom the women, and or the girls, and it also
Little girl.
happens with males too. It's not just
Yeah. Oh,
men
totally.
and girls, but yeah, that's the whole grooming process, and
That
yeah,
was
you
that
can't
was
say
a
anything negative though against Elvis.
no. Oh God, no.
Even to this day, people I go to, I see whenever they release something, like they say something like Priscilla just opened up about what Elvis used to do to her. And they're like, oh, look at her making all this money off of him. Well, you got all this stuff from him and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know, you just can't accept that this man that you idolized could be a bad guy.
Well, you
Well,
know,
you know, I don't know anything about anything Elvis did, but I hesitate when I see people come out against people right after they die or sometime after, because they're not there to defend themselves
it's
anymore.
true. And why? Where were they while they were alive? Yeah.
Right. If she came out and said, hey Elvis, you're doing so and so, then hey, he deserves what he gets. He's there to defend himself.
Well, it's a perfect example of how powerful people are able to do things that non-powerful people can't. And
Oh,
in the
there's
case,
a certain man in politics who has a son that deserves some jail time that will never get it
well, there
because
are
of
all
who his
kinds.
dad is.
There are all kinds of people in, yeah. But in this case with Elvis, he was a good man in many ways. I mean, he certainly advanced African American singers and songwriters,
Well,
and
there's a lot of people like that. That
yeah,
if you look at everything they did, there were good things they did. You look at Gacy. There's probably a few. He probably helped an old lady across the street once. I mean,
He used to entertain at children's hospitals.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
but why
never.
was he there? You know.
Yeah, but you never know. There may be at least one or two things even bad people do.
I can
You
tell
know.
you, I can tell you why a lot of people who were victims don't speak out, especially when somebody is powerful and they don't speak out until after they're dead, is because they're afraid because of the reach of this person. Like that, if she had spoken out against Elvis while he was still alive, he had enough power. I mean, the guy was had people in the government. He was like what an official FBI agent or CIA.
Yeah, but that was just a thing that Nixon did for him
Right.
to placate him. He didn't really have any authority.
Still, he had a lot of people that were so like Colonel Parker, who would do anything to protect that cash cow.
Well,
That
yeah, that was his
take
meal
out
ticket.
anybody. They would take out anybody who dared to speak out against Elvis.
Well, that's the whole reason for the system is they're protecting. They all protect each other
Yeah,
in order to protect their fortunes, and it. The one people often ask me why I'm an admirer of Paul McCartney, and I always tell them because of the one reason is George Martin's story about driving to his farm and asking the guy at the gate where's Macca, and he say, "Oh, he's in the barn." So he goes up, drives up to the barn, and gets out. And this man, this hero of millions, is crawled inside a cow trying to give birth and helping pull out a breech birth cow.
yeah, they're just human beings for crying out
Exactly.
loud.
You know,
They're just
and
human beings.
that's
Well,
if you're a human being, you're doing that. That's because of compassion. Somebody else is going to be paying somebody to. Now that's the
well,
compassion, but it shows a certain interacting with the mortal world that other
Yeah.
people don't do.
well. Speaking of the Beatles, have you seen Get Back
Oh yeah. Oh
on
yeah.
Apple? If you want to see what the Beatles were really like, watch that.
Yeah.
I
It's
love when they're all sitting there complaining about being under scrutiny. They're like, yes, the cameras again. I just love that.
well, you know what?
Uh,
What it really shows is how much the other three hated Yoko.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, because she destroyed the Beatles. You can watch that and you can see her leading it down the path of destruction.
Well,
yeah,
she approached Paul McCartney in 1965. I mean, she tried to act like I did not know who Beatles were. Yeah, well, sorry, but you did.
yeah.
Um,
Well, she had no talent whatsoever. She couldn't sing. Have you ever heard any of her songs?
oh, unfortunately, no.
Oh yeah,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah.
Yeah,
She's. Um, I think the reason why John attached to her so quick was because John had all those mommy issues, and and she was manipulative,
yeah,
and she got in. She acted like a
yeah,
classic narcissist, and she got a hold of him, and allegedly she also helped him get on a heroin,
yep,
and you know then helped him to get off of it. But I know he had there were the things about how he was abusive
oh,
to
he was.
women,
He was a
all these
wife
things.
beater with it.
Yeah, and it's like,
So
you
was
know,
McCartney.
and people, it's like there are a lot of them out there. I mean, Sean Connery, everybody loved him. James Bond, he used to say,
Oh,
"Yeah, a woman needs a good slap every once in a while." It's like, excuse me, but people still love
yeah.
him, still loved him, you know, and
Well,
that's
there are a lot of people that are good actors, but that's the thing with these actors. They all think that their opinion, that everybody should listen to their opinion. I don't care about their opinion. I don't care about their political leanings. I don't care. I just want to see them portray whatever it is they're portraying. Because there's a bunch of them that I don't really care for their political leanings, but they're great actors. So, you know.
Yeah.
there are a lot of the one thing that I have a problem is when you get this kind of um, idolation, you become this popular figure, and you get money and you get power, and so anything you can, everything you do is golden. They feel like they can get away with anything. It's
Exactly.
this power trip, like they can get.
And
That's
they
why
can.
it's nice to know the ones that are humble about it, that know how to be humble, because either, like Robert Downey Jr., regardless of what he did 4 years ago, because you don't know why he had to leave. Something could have come up. Okay.
And he's done good things.
He has
And
done incredible things, but he has been at the bottom, rock bottom,
yes.
and he is committed to helping people get clean, and work with them to bring them back from the brink, because he knows where they are and what they're going through, and he's not going to let that happen again.
Well, RDJ also, when someone was talking about, oh, what is his name? The guy, Ken, Scott Penn.
Scott Penn or
Uh,
Sean Penn?
Sean Penn, thank you.
Yeah.
He was talking about, somebody at a talk show was talking about that. And Robert leaned forward and said, "You know who kicked in my door and dragged me to the hospital when I overdosed?" It's Sean Penn.
Everybody goes off about, oh, Sean Penn punched a paparazzi. Yeah, because he was protecting his wife at the time, Madonna,
Um,
who,
he
as we
also
know now, is an
beat the
attention
hell out
whore.
of Madonna. So,
Yeah.
Well,
Madonna is so desperately trying to be relevant today that she's
yeah.
doing stupid stuff like, holding up her big granny panties and saying, if I miss the basket, I'm gay. And she throws them and misses the basket, and then does this little, everybody was saying, is that Marilyn Manson? Because she's had so much stuff done to her face. But
Yeah.
people were also saying, Oh, so is she trying to say she's gay? Everybody's known that she's been bisexual or pansexual since like the 80s when she was dating Sandra Bernhardt, you
It's like
know.
I don't care.
Who cares?
Yeah.
So what? And it's always funny because she always comes out with some kind of weird thing after some other person, like Lizzo. It was right after Lizzo had done the thing with the flute.
With the flute, yeah.
Suddenly she's doing this thing with the panties. Before that, I think it was Gaga had done something. Somebody else had done something. And she did the whole weird thing where she blew a kiss at the camera or kissed at the camera with these huge lips. And everybody's like, what drugs is this old woman on? She's trying so desperately to stay relevant and sexy. And it's like, honey, stop.
Accept who you are now.
Yeah, age
That's
gracefully. Stop trying to, you know, let these other people have some attention. Okay.
Well, I read something that she was so jealous of Lady Gaga
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that she couldn't hardly stand it.
She said Gaga stole everything from her, and Gaga was the first person to say that Madonna was one of her inspirations.
Well, you look at these people, a lot of them pick up their act from somebody else.
Yeah,
You know,
Madonna was not the first person to do like shock stuff. I mean, Alice Cooper, hello.
well,
David
Melody and I were talking about Elvira.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Elvira.
here locally, there was a horror movie talk show host called Mona Lisa.
Okay.
And if you look at pictures of Mona Lisa, that's exactly where Elvira got her whole shtick. Okay, this Mona Lisa, Channel 11 had to desperately go find somebody to host their horror movie show because they had a fellow named Seymour.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Seymour was great. If you look up some pictures of him, he was the best of those horror movie talk show hosts. But unfortunately, he died of cancer pretty young. And his name was Larry Vincent. He was in quite a few movies.
Yeah.
And then when he died, Channel 11 had to go find somebody. So she was a secretary, I think, with the studio or something. And she dressed up in this costume and walked out there and she took
It
over.
was Mona Lisa.
I'm
took
looking
over
at
Fright Night.
pictures of her right now. God, she was gorgeous.
I have to say though, the first of those was Vampira.
Yes.
Yeah, but she didn't host a TV show, though.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Maybe later in her career. But
No,
I
over New York.
Yeah, the Vampira show was on American television back in 1954 through 55. So she did it before Mona Lisa did it.
Yeah. Hey.
In Los Angeles, by the way. In Los Angeles. Channel 7, Los Angeles.
I have a 6 foot tall Vampira poster. That one where she's in the red costume.
Oh,
You've probably seen that. And she signed it for me. She was at one of the conventions I was at not too long before she died. She signed it for me.
I knew Mila. I wish I'd
wow.
known you were crossing paths with her. I'd have had you tell her that you were Mel's brother.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know you knew her.
Yeah. She was an old friend of James Dean's, and I interviewed her extensively for the Dean project. So.
Well, I remember her having some pictures of her and Elvis.
Yeah.
She was in one of the Elvis movies, playing one of the girls in bikinis,
Yeah.
and she was like a background cast member of one of his movies.
Yeah.
I think it was Girls, 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 I think was the name of the movie.
She did a lot of stuff. I mean, most people think of her as from Plan 9, but she did a lot of stuff.
I met a lot of the people from Plan 9.
Hilton the cop?
Well, the cop, up until his death, that's how he made a living.
Yeah, I
was
know.
he would dress in that costume and go to the conventions.
Yeah.
And he was at this one convention, and Forey Ackerman was still alive,
Yeah.
and he was there with Forrest Ackerman. And
Yeah.
you know, those conventions were so good back then. I met I don't know if you know who Joseph Stefano was.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was one of the creators of the Outer Limits, the original Outer Limits.
Wow.
Yeah. It was amazing.
And it just so happens one of my buddies was friends with his son.
Yeah.
So he took me in there and I got to meet Joseph Stefano. And it was cool. He let me hold one of those misfit ants. Remember that episode?
Misfits.
Yeah, he let me hold he had one of them there at the show and he let me hold it. And that was really cool.
I got to go out to the Vasquez Rocks the last time I was in California. I made a pilgrimage to the Vasquez Rocks, and I made a joke about how I was looking for Gorn and Banty Misfits.
Well, you know,
That's where
Melody lives not too far from there.
Yeah.
I love it out there. There is something about that area that is just wow.
I was lost up there for over 6 hours. Larry and I were.
Up in the rocks, in the Vasquez
Yeah.
Rocks. Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Don't they have that roped off now to where you can't go there?
Well, they have parts of it
What?
roped off because too many people were getting up there and getting lost,
Yeah,
and
'Cause I think-
it got
I mean,
to be.
that's sad.
Sorry?
That's
Well, they
sad.
said that they made it like a national park or something, and it's because people have been going up there and graffitiing the rocks.
That's why they roped off Stonehenge, because people were doing that to Stonehenge.
Exactly.
Speaking, you were talking about like classic sci-fi and horror. I met Anne Robinson from War of the Worlds,
Right.
and I asked her. She was spunky. Oh my gosh, she's 93 years old now, and I met her when she was 90. So she is just a spunky gal, and I love her. She told me, because she had some pictures like from her old headshots from back in the 50s and 60s. And she just started telling me stories about what Hollywood was like back then. And she talked about there was a starlet who was having an affair with Jerry Lewis when he was at the height of his popularity then. And he was married. And when the studio found out, they ran the starlet out of town because they weren't going to lose Jerry and Jerry's money, cash cow. So
Yeah.
they ran her out of town, and she never worked again. And I was like, man, it just sucks to be a woman in Hollywood. And she said,
Yeah.
oh, you have no idea, honey.
Oh yeah.
And she was just telling me all kinds of spilling that tea with me. And I said, oh,
Well, you know, on Facebook, there is an actress who was a child actress most of her life.
Pamela.
And she talks about Jerry Lewis not very pleasantly.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That-
There were
I heard
stories about him
That he was real rude to the kids, and it's
Yeah.
Pamela Verdon. You've probably heard of Pamela Verdon. She was the voice of Lucy on You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, I think was the movie.
Oh, okay.
And she was in Star Trek, the Plato's Stepchildren episode of Star Trek. She was one of the little kids. And she did a bunch of stuff. She was on
Yeah, on the TV show.
she almost played Buffy on Family Affair.
Thank
Okay,
God
yeah.
she-
Yeah, this thing with the Me Too movement that busted out with Weinstein, and I mean this was a long time coming. I mean even Carrie Fisher, when she was alive, she was fighting for the rights of all these. Remember when she
Yeah.
went into somebody's office and threatened to castrate them if they laid a hand on a young actress. I can't
Yep.
remember who it was, but it's like she had been through it herself.
Yeah.
And she
Well-
grew up as a second generation.
Yep.
Actress.
Wasn't there some talk about Carrie Fisher and Warren Beatty? when they did that shampoo or whatever that movie she was in with
I don't
him.
think she was Carrie Fisher in Shampoo.
I don't think.
Wasn't that her that was in that?
I don't think. Let me look.
I'm looking too. She said that it looks like she said, yeah, she was in Shampoo in 1975.
Yeah, and she asks him if he wants to f.
Oh,
Not to use that word, but she used it.
Yeah.
And she was like 15 when she did the
No,
movie.
she was 17 when she made the movie, and he was 13.
Oh, I thought she was younger.
Yeah, but still, she's underage. 17. She was underage, and yes, he did. He was 36 at the time. So
Yeah, there was some talk that there was something not quite right about their relationship in the movie.
well,
she said that he propositioned her for sex 4 times when she was 17.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
According to this interview that was published last year.
Well, that's the thing when women get older, we start talking.
Oh yeah,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
yeah.
And,
We were talking about Linda Blair earlier,
yeah, oh yeah.
and Linda Blair actually at this convention, we were selling at the convention, so we were there for like 2 or 3 hours before the show started, and we were there after the show. And the actors usually get there early and they walk around looking at the stuff. So I got to chatting with Linda Blair, and she intimated that the song "Super Freak"
Was
about her. Because she was talking about.
Did she date?
Oh yeah, she was living with them.
Okay.
When she was 15.
Where the hell was her mother?
You got me. But she was telling me, she says, I was really into drugs and kinky sex. And she says, so I did things that I'm just completely embarrassed about now. And she says, and she didn't say for sure. She says, but listening to that song, I'm pretty sure he wrote that about me. So.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, a lot of people in the industry that get caught up in the whole drugs and alcohol, especially if they're young. I mean, look at Drew Barrymore.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
totally.
she was at Studio 54 doing lines of cocaine
When she was 12.
It's like that's and people and it's like everybody treated her. It's like she was a child, But this is something that happens to these children.
Yes.
And if they're lucky, now I don't know if you've seen this guy, this new, what is his name? He's like a medium. He's a young medium, and he's been meeting.
Oh, Tyler Henry.
Yes,
Yes.
I saw the one where he met Corey Feldman, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about Corey Feldman." I'm like, "How do you not know about these people when you meet them? They're celebrities. Their dirt is all over the place, And it's like,
You think?
especially, and he's like, "There's somebody coming through who, And I'm like,
right.
bullshit. It's like you got that. It's like I mean, everybody knows that. You're not saying anything anybody doesn't know.
Yeah, well, Corey Feldman's come out and laid accusations about quite a few people, and I mean, he's the one that pretty much started this Hollywood pedophilia thing.
Yep.
He's trying to, and he's been a child actor since he was like what 2 or 3 years old.
Since he was a child, yeah.
Yeah, so he's seen it happen to all these people, and he knows who's doing it. And there's one side of him that wants to come out and say it, and there's another side that doesn't. That's afraid.
Well, didn't River Phoenix's situation wasn't that caused by the drugs and
Yes.
his suicide?
His whole family.
They were
family.
They were kind of like a hippie in a hippie cult or something.
Yeah.
And they were always traveling around, and the kids were always performing even at an early age.
Yeah.
And River, I believe was gay, and he couldn't deal with it in that era of Hollywood. That he'd done that Gus Van Sant film with Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah.
And I think that it was just like his awakening, but he couldn't deal with it, and that's why he was kind of getting into the drugs really heavy. And
Who
because
knows?
that's the escape. That's the escape. They can't deal with the pressure, so they take the drugs to numb everything.
You know, it's
And
funny. They've been trying to get Will Wheaton to talk about stuff, and he seems to not want to
Yeah.
say
he's
anything.
one of the
There are
lucky
some
ones.
people who are way too powerful. Who, I mean, David Geffen is a very good example of somebody that you know, and bless his heart, the only one who's ever talked against him is Keanu Reeves, who
Yeah.
is, who's a saint. But
Everybody loves him. He's like
yeah,
he's one of those people who's always doing something for somebody.
he's always and
Well,
doing
he tries to stay out of the political crap.
Yep.
He just deals with, but he's always trying to help people. You see him on stuff, whether that's all true or not, I don't know. But
It is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't trust anybody who's in Scientology either.
I don't either.
as in Tom Cruise,
Tom Cruise, any of them. Danny Masterson is
Yeah.
is
Well,
Scientology.
I don't even know who Danny Masterson is. I'm sorry.
He's the
Did you
one
watch
that is
that '70s show?
Maybe a couple episodes.
okay. He is the
I
one.
watched one that Leonard Nimoy was on. I think it's the only one I saw.
Okay.
Was he on
Did
that
you
show?
see? Did you see Malcolm in the Middle?
In the same way, I probably saw one or two episodes.
His
Well, Danny
twin brother
Masterson
was-
has a lot of cases against him for sexual abuse and rape, and
Yeah.
Well, let's hope they get him. If he did it,
Well,
they have had, they're all these the Mila Kunis, who was his co-star on that '70s show, has been taking a lot of flack because she's standing up for him. And I'm trying to think of who the other two actors are who are standing up for him. And
Butcher has, yeah.
well, sometimes they just don't know what really happened.
Yeah.
They weren't privy to the things he's being accused of. Because it's like somebody you work with. I have no idea what the people I work with do in their private lives. They could be mass murderers. I don't know.
as like the BTK, the serial killer, find, torture, kill. He was a deacon of the church,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I've
he
seen-
was a serial killer.
Anne Rule, the writer
Yeah.
Anne Rule, her good friend Ted Bundy.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. My own father was a deacon of his church, and everybody thinks that the sun rises and sets on him like he can do no wrong. And oh my gosh, what he has done in his life.
Gotcha. All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour. Tam, we have to have you back.
Oh, sure.
You.
Yeah, this was fun.
This
The only thing is we have to get her higher up in the chair, so her top of her head's. There you go.
I'm sitting up higher in my couch. I'll have to figure out something else. I know we're kind of going like at an angle right now. But I'll figure out something else by next time.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. This was fun.
Yeah, it was good talking.
And I don't think we accused anybody who hasn't been accused elsewhere, so I think we're safe.
I got in the word allegedly a couple of times.
Well,
everything's alleged.
I sort of work in the motion picture industry, kind of.
Okay.
I work for. Have you ever heard of Red Digital Cinema?
No.
We make the motion picture cameras used in probably half the movies.
Oh, okay.
All the Marvel films, the Queen's Gambit on Netflix, that was filmed with our cameras. So we make very expensive cameras. Our cheapest camera is $10,000. Our most expensive one is $90,000. So if you want to buy a good camera and you got lots of money,
You're the man to go to.
there you go.
Next week is our Halloween episode. I'm working on 2 or 3 people for next week. One of them being the daughter of. Oh, I'll keep that back and then we'll,
Okay. Well,
All
there's another one that I have been trying to get. Well, two. I've been trying to get Steve Ross, who was making a movie. He was our guest earlier, but unfortunately, I can't get a hold of him. And the other one is Steve Sansweet, who we're putting in a request. He is the director of specialty marketing for Lucasfilms.
Oh, okay.
And he and I have known each other for about 30 years off and on, so I'm hoping we have to go through Disney to get him on the show, so I don't know how that's going to work out, but we're working on it.
Well, I would like to suggest you get somebody named Rita Radcliffe. She lives in California. She used to belly dance for Gene Roddenberry at the Star Trek party.
I've heard about that story.
He would house sit for celebrities. She was very close to George Papard, runs his fan club. She knows everybody. She knew Steve McGarrett. She knew, or the guy who played Steve McGarrett, the original.
Jack Lord.
Jack Lord.
we got around.
Now, I've heard some stories about Jack Lord.
You need to get Rita on here. She will spill some tea.
Well,
Happy
Melody,
Halloween.
you talk to Tam and see if you can get the contact information for that person.
Talk every day. So
Okay.
All right.
Well, we gotta go now.
Bye.
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 Happy Halloween in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I have a new shirt.
Yay! I don't. Why is this not doing this? Okay. You see.